Hey everybody, and welcome back to Super Comic Fun Time. This show is a new thing I'm trying because I'm not able to get to my comic book picks on the day they're happening, and tomorrow is New Comic Book Day again. So on today's show, we are going to feature one of our Batman Day comics, Joker's Apprentice. Venom number 6, and Batman Damned number 1. But before we start there, we are going to take a look at, oh, hold on one second. Bring this up here. I forget that if I'm launching in Google Chrome, I can only share Google Chrome because Google is the Antichrist that we were all warned about. So anyways, I wanted to go over one of the places I check to see what's coming out on New Comic Book Day. In fact, the only place I really check is my local comic book store that how come I can't? I don't want to share my entire screen. Well, I guess this is not going to work the way I hoped it would. In the past, I've been able to at least share Chrome, right? The Chrome window. Well, let's just, I guess I got to share my entire screen. Oh, never mind. Let's go ahead and stop this. This is nonsense. So coming out tomorrow is several books I'm really looking forward to. There's so many books coming out. I don't know that I am going to be able to get them all. My big 3 picks would be Heroes in Crisis number 1, Doomsday Clock number 7, and Justice League Odyssey number 1. I also noticed there's a Star Trek Transformers crossover that looks like a lot of fun. And I think Century number 4 is out tomorrow too, which I think I've missed Century number 3. I think I'm behind on that title. So, well, I guess that's easy enough to say. That's what's coming out tomorrow. There's also Action Comics 1003, and that looks really good by the cover, but it's Brian Michael Bendis, and he lost me at issue 5 of The Man of Steel. So let's talk about what I've read this week. Now, one thing I've been continuing to read is DC's Invasion from the 80s. Which is really good. I'm in the last book. It's a trilogy, and it's just written so well. I really enjoy that book. It's a good thing I started this channel, and I've been reading some of the books like Justice League International from around that time because I got a bit of an idea of who the characters are. The first book is basically the lead up to the invasion, and I think it ends when the Earth is it ends when the Earth is being invaded. The next volume deals with the battle for the Earth. And then the third volume is called A World Without Heroes. Is that right? Anyways, the bad guys are defeated at the end of the second book, but one little alien dude he's got dreams of glory for himself. He releases a retrovirus into the Earth's atmosphere to get rid of the metahuman gene, and it causes a lot of heroes and villains to become sick. And that reminds me of the plot of Crusade and possibly The Last Ship, which I've never seen The Last Ship, but Crusade was the sequel to Babylon 5. So after 5 years of Babylon 5 where they defeat the Shadows, allies of the Shadows come back to Earth and they poison the Earth, and then Crusade was supposed to be another 5-year show, where they go around and they try to find a cure for the disease that's ravaging Earth. And the plot of The Last Ship reminded me of that, but I've never watched it, so I don't know how true that is. Anyways, so the books I read this last week, I'm not going to talk about. Oh yeah, so I just talked about Invasion. This book was from my Batman pack that I opened on Batman Day, Batman, Joker's Apprentice. Now this was by a writer I'd never heard of, C.J. Henderson, and it turns out he is a novelist, or he was a novelist. Sadly, he died in 2014. This book was so good. This is one of the best Batman books I've ever read. It's a little bit larger than your standard comic book. It's a little thicker. I think it's 56 pages if you don't count the covers, but there are some ads in here, so I don't know how long it is without the ads. Maybe it's 50 pages. I don't know. This story was so good. The basic plot is, it's a self-contained story. It's not a big arc. The story starts with the Joker in Arkham Asylum, and he decides that he needs an apprentice because he wants to give Batman a gift. So he trains this guy how to fight Batman, and then he sets him loose, and the guy has his own ambitions, pulls together his own team, and he really wants to take on Batman because but this book, not only is the story great, but it has some great art too. I love this book. This book is one of the best books I've ever read, one of the best Batman stories I've ever read, one of the best Joker stories I've ever read. And right now, right here, there's two faces. Batman's trying to figure out what's going on. What the Joker's apprentice does is he decides to try to make a crime scene look like it's committed by a maniac who wants to get caught. So him and two other guys he recruits. One guy, foments trust with the victims, who are usually young women, and then the other guy is just this big brute of a guy. And so they're trying to confuse Batman by having three people commit the crime, and so yeah, it was, I don't know, I really enjoyed this story. If you're looking for a good classic Batman story, this is it. Never heard of it before I opened my pack, but you should definitely check this one out. You can find it at your used bookstore or half-price books. It'll probably be relatively inexpensive. I don't think there's a great demand for this book, and that's a shame. This was a great book. Can't rate it highly enough. Next up, we'll switch to Marvel, and we'll talk about Venom #6. This seems to be the conclusion of the arc we've been on since Venom #1, which is essentially the god of the symbiotes coming to Earth. This book was a really good, really satisfying conclusion. It's basically just a lot of battling. At least, I read it. When I get Venom, I read it right away. So I don't know what Danny Cates and his team, Ryan Stegman, J.P. Mayer, and Frank Martin have planned for issue 7. This book seems like, if I didn't want to read Venom anymore, I could look at that. This book was just so awesome. It was so thrilling. I don't know if Danny Cates, better than the Watchmen, holds up, mostly because the Watchmen had so many plates it was spinning. If this does, it'll have to go on beyond issue 7. But for what it is, this is like one of the great modern comics of our time, and hopefully you've been following along with it. And this was a great conclusion. I really want to read the whole run again before too much goes on. But you see all the good stuff coming out tomorrow, and then all the stuff I'm already into. Okay. And then finally, Batman Damned. Now this is DC's Black Label, and this is a more mature comic. It's meant to be that way. The story is really good. The artwork is really, it's almost too realistic for me, but I enjoyed it. The premise of the story is Batman wakes up in an ambulance, and he has just been battling the Joker. The Joker ends up being dead, and Batman wants to know who did it. He's afraid he might have done it. I think that's where the title comes from. There's been some online tittering from the little boys of the internet because it's not really a nude scene. It's just Batman comes back to the Batcave. Like Constantine is in this, and oh yeah, spoilers. Constantine is in this, and he patches Batman up. Batman goes back to the Batcave, takes off his uniform right at the mouth of the Batcave, and so there's a little bit of nudity. It's not explicit at all. I'm an adult. I've been to clothing optional spas. Not everything is hypersexualized for me. So, I don't know about the tittering masses on Twitter, but I don't know. This book was really, really good. There's a subplot about Thomas Wayne having an affair, and I don't know. You should definitely check this out if you can get it. Apparently, because of the online commotion, which I don't know, it's a tempest in a teapot. DC recalled this book and is putting out a cleaned up version. I don't understand why. Again, it's clearly Black Label. It's a mature book. It's for mature readers, which excludes Bleeding Cool, the worst garbage tier clickbait site on the internet, perhaps. Maybe it's just right along Vice. And anyways, this book was, I'm not going to say it. Well, first of all, it's only 1/3 of a story. This is meant to be a trilogy. I thought it was great. It didn't rise up to the level of the Joker's Apprentice for me, but that was a whole complete story. So, that's how you got to judge these things. This story was great for what it was. If the artwork was fantastic. You have insights into young Bruce Wayne. Look at this. I don't know if I showed this page yet, but this is just, Batman streaming across the sky. What more could you want? Dead Joker, maybe. I don't know. Do you think the Joker's dead? I don't think the Joker's dead. If Joker was dead, there wouldn't be a trilogy. But this was like a highlight. Well, both books. I only got 2 books last week, and both books were superb. So, like I said earlier in the show, I noticed that Century #4 is coming out tomorrow. I really liked Century 1 and 2. I somehow missed Century 3, but yeah. So it looks like tomorrow, especially, is a DC heavy day for me, and it just looks awesome. I won't be able to get to my comic book store until Thursday, but yeah. So let me know what you're excited about coming out tomorrow. And let me know about what you thought of Damned if you read it. I thought it was just really good. I thought it was a really good, solid story. I don't know if I will find it groundbreaking until I read the other 2 parts, but certainly it was a great beginning, a great first act. So I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys had a super comic fun day, and I will talk to you soon. Maybe I'll be able to get a video in earlier than I did this last time. And super comic fun time out.